Hello students, in this video I am going to introduce you people with the well-known dramatic lyric Rabbi ben Ezra. Students, this poem is a dramatic monologue, and in my previous video I have explained in detail about the chief features of dramatic monologue as a form of poetry. Students, this famous dramatic monologue is written by Robert Browning. So, let's have an introduction with the poet. Robert Browning is a leading Victorian poet. Students, as you have read Tennyson's poems, one was The Lotus Eaters and another was Tears, Idle Tears. And Tennyson is also a leading Victorian poet. He is called the representative poet of Victorian era. So, Robert Browning is also a contemporary of Tennyson. He is also a prominent Victorian poet. As far as personal growth of Robert Browning is concerned, he did not receive his formal education from any university or any college. He was educated almost entirely at home, and he was fortunate enough to have significant literary resources at his parents' place. Students, he received the knowledge of classics from his father and of music from his mother at home only. Later on, he got married to Elizabeth Barrett Browning. She is also a famous poetess. And if we talk about his growth as a literary artist, the very first thing which comes in our mind is about the formative influences on the mind of the artist. So, as far as the formative influences on the growth of Browning as a literary artist, as a poet, were that of Shelley and Byron. Shelley and Byron, both of them are very famous romantic poets, and they were Robert Browning's favorites. So, as a literary artist, Robert Browning is known for three things. First one is his wonderful insight. Second one is extraordinary power of observation. And thirdly, keen psychological penetration. In brief, we can say that his poems present before us psychological analysis with a painter's hand. So both these things, they prove that his keen observation and his psychological penetration to look into the human experiences. Students, Robert Browning as a poet is known as a master of dramatic monologue. He is a psychological portrait painter. Actually, his poems, his dramatic monologues are called soul studies. As in my video on dramatic monologue, I have made it clear to you that in his dramatic monologues, Robert Browning has laid bare the soul of the speaker of that particular dramatic monologue. So, psychological portraiture is his specificity. Thirdly, Robert Browning as a poet is known as an optimist philosopher. Although he was living in an era which was passing through great chaos or disorder or questioning, but apart from all the tendencies prevalent in his life, in his society, Robert Browning's poems presents a altogether different picture, and he comes before us as an optimist philosopher. The same you will find in his poem Rabbi ben Ezra. Robert Browning is a poet of human experiences. He doesn't talk about anything beyond the human world. And as far as his famous works are concerned, they are The Ring and the Book. This was published in 1869. Then another famous anthology is Dramatic Persona. That was 1864. Then Dramatic Lyrics. It was published in 1892. 92, yes. And His another well-known dramatic monologues are My Last Duchess, which was published in 1842, Andrea del Sarto, which was published in 1855, and Rabbi Ben Ezra, that is there in your syllabus, was published in 1864. Students, this poem Rabbi Ben Ezra was published in the volume Dramatic Persona, and it's a dramatic monologue, as I have told you earlier. And in a dramatic monologue there is always a speaker. So here in this poem, Rabbi is a speaker. Now the question arises, who is a rabbi? So a rabbi is actually a Hebrew word which means one who is learned in theology and religious philosophy. We can say that rabbi is a scholar. And here he is talking about Ben Ezra, a rabbi named Ben Ezra, and this Ben Ezra is identified as Abraham Ben Ezra, who was a Spanish Jew and a distinguished scholar of 12th century. So that Rabbi Ibn Ezra is the speaker of this poem, and throughout the poem Rabbi gives expression to his trust in divine benevolence, in the divine grace, in the power of God, and that shows the optimism of the poet. And in our next videos we will try to analyze and study this poem Rabbi Ben Ezra. Thank you.